When you have a diverse network to begin with and community, you don't have to go searching. I'm going to see teams of white founders. I'm going to see Armenian founders. I'm going to see Black. I'm going to see Latin founders. The people are the most important part of, I think, of venture capital. So we want to see these people just kind of grow within the firm, understand how we evaluate opportunities, how we evaluate spaces, how we add value to our founders. And then, one day it'll be theirs.
Welcome to Trailblazers, the podcast where we sit down with contrarian tech leaders who found conventional success in unconventional ways. Today on the show, I am so excited to be joined by Marlon Nichols. Marlon is the co-founder and managing general partner of Mac Venture Capital, a leading seed-stage firm backing visionary founders who are redefining industries and shaping the future. Under his leadership, Mac has grown into one of North America's largest seed-stage firms with over $600 million in assets under management. He's backed an incredible portfolio of companies, including MongoDB, Gimlet Media, Thrive Market, Blavity, and Pipe, consistently identifying cultural and technological shifts before they hit the mainstream. His ability to spot transformative opportunities has earned him recognition on Business Insider's Seed 100 and PitchBook's top VCs to watch. I didn't know about that list. That's a good one. Before founding Mac Venture Capital, Marlon launched Cross Culture Ventures and served as an investment director at Intel Capital, developing a sharp lens on the intersection of culture, technology, and consumer behavior. A former professional athlete, Marlon brings a leadership style rooted in discipline and long-term vision and is deeply committed to expanding access in venture capital through his work with Kauffman Fellows. Please welcome Marlon.
Hey.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. It's fun.
I'm excited to chat. Yeah. So before we get into the meat of the interview, we typically start with an icebreaker. Okay, and it's not an easy question. So we're going to get right to the good stuff, okay?
Oh, all right.
So when you think about your journey so far and you hear me read your bio, what has been the hardest part that you think, along the way, whether it's personal, whether it's professional, hardest part of your journey that almost broke you?
That was probably making the decision to leave Intel Capital to start Cross Culture. You're leaving a cushy job where, the firm and the fund has a ton of name recognition. Being there was my first job out of business school and my first real job in venture. And so spending almost 6 years there became a part of my identity. So, stepping away from that to create something new, not knowing if it was going to work, trying to figure out how I was going to fund it, all those things, it was a very, very difficult time.
Yeah. I know that well, that decision to leave something cushy to start something. Talk to me a little bit about what led you to start Cross Culture. So you were at Intel, like you said, cushy, things were going well, and then you have this vision to start Cross Culture, which, we mentioned this in the bio, but that was what you were doing before Mac, and we'll get into kind of the fun merger that happened. Why Cross Culture? Why start it? Was there a thesis you couldn't invest in at Intel? Was it wanting to take a full bet on yourself? Talk to me a little bit about that decision.
Yeah, it was all of the above. But I think more than anything else, kind of a mounting frustration of not being able to invest in the types of founders and the types of companies that I was getting more and more excited about. Intel Capital is a corporate VC. And so with the corporate VC, there's certain strategic mandates that you have to invest under, which excluded, certain industries, certain sectors, and certain founders. And I increasingly wanted to work in some of those with some of those founders that were building in some of those industries, and over time it just got to be. And then the other thing is, when I first got to Intel Capital, it was pretty easy to get entrepreneurs excited to come in for a pitch meeting or even work with us, and it was because of the Intel Capital brand. And then over time, I saw that starting to shift a bit, where founders wanted to not just work with Intel, but they wanted to work with me. And in some cases, they wanted to work with me in spite of the fact that I was at Intel Capital. Mm-hmm. And so that gave me some level of confidence that, if I stepped out, I would be able to, hang my shingle and or my sign and, attract great founders and work with, some incredible people that I hadn't been able to before.
Yeah, that's the tricky thing about being at any big shop is the balance between the brand of the firm and the brand of the individual. And sometimes it can really carry you, especially in the beginning. But then there starts to be a switch where almost sometimes that person's brand outperforms or outlives the company or the firm that they're at. which it sounds like that was your situation. Was
Yeah.
there a specific founder that was like a deal you really wanted to do, or a situation where like they were maybe not going to go with Intel, but they wanted to work with you that triggered that? Or was it more just a compounding effect over some time?
I started to get really intrigued about consumer-focused businesses. And most of what I was doing at Intel was enterprise or B2B software. And I wanted to, it was an interesting time. This was like 2015-ish. And there was just a lot going on around consumer tech and, social networks and all those things. And I wanted to try it. I wanted to experience it. And I felt like I was leaving a lot of money on the table and missing out on some really great experiences. And so that's really what it was.
I love it. So, okay, so you decide you're going to start the fund, Cross Culture Ventures. Talk to me about like that first fund, raising it, what the thesis was. How did you like it? Was it what you expected? I mean, I think a lot of people too I speak to in this like emerging manager cohort, it's always the grass is greener too, right? Like they have the cushy job and they're like, no, I want to invest in my own thesis. And then they leave and they're like, oh my God, this is hard, or it's not what they expected maybe. So what was it like doing Fund 1? Tell me a little bit about that. Any investments you made you're excited about? But I'd love to hear a little bit about that transition and like if it matched your expectations.
Yeah, it was hard. It was really hard. I mean, the hardest part about it was the fundraising part of it, right? Being at a corporate VC, you never have to fundraise.
Yeah,
right?
that's the beauty. Like one giant LP.
Yeah, you never have to fundraise. The $200 million just magically appears every year for you to go and invest it.
Yeah.
And that wasn't the case when you're leaving to start your own thing. It was hard, but I got a lot of help. I went through the Kauffman Fellows program.
Did you do that early on in starting Cross Culture?
Yeah, it was. I was graduating when I started Cross Culture.
Oh wow! So you kind of started it in Intel.
Yeah.
And then you amazing.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
great.
I got to a point where I had to eventually choose: am I going to stay or am I going to go? And yeah, that's right around when we got to our first close. But yeah, I mean, just sitting down and coming up with the strategy. How many companies should we invest in? What should our check size be? How much capital do we think we're going to be able to raise? Who should my partners be in this? All of those were like super tough decisions and decisions that we ultimately made. But the fundraising process was really long. I mean, it took us probably almost 2 years to raise roughly 15 million when our target was 50. So we definitely undershot the goal, right?
Everyone though, I mean, even now you hear that story all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, but going through it, hearing about it and okay, this is really my life. They're two different things, right? And so that was a tough pill to swallow, and you got to make decisions along the way. We couldn't invest as a $50 million fund when we only had 15. So we had to switch the strategy.
No lead checks.
Yeah, right, yeah. Right. Yeah, no lead checks. 250 was kind of a big number. 250K became a big number for us, right? Whereas we thought, we were going to be doing maybe 500K, $1 million. So the follow-on strategy. So not having a follow-on strategy where we were expecting to, reserve about 50% of the fund to make follow-on investments. These are real-time, difficult decisions that we had to make. What size rounds we would be a part of. Should ownership targets be a thing for us or not? All of these are super critical decisions, and all the while thinking we've got to do a really good job here because this is kind of our test case, our proof of concept, and the LPs are going to be looking at us to see did we perform. Were we actually able to, get into the caliber of deals that we said we were going to be able to get into? Were we actually the value add partners to the entrepreneurs that we said we were going to be, right? So even that we have to make these trade-offs, but we've got to make them in a way that doesn't affect, our forward trajectory or how we're viewed by our potential prospective investors in next round, et cetera.
Totally. Yeah. Someone told me this once. They said the first 5 deals you do out of your fund one are the most important deals of your life because they have the longest time to mature, and they're the ones that you're going to use to like catalyze the rest of your fund one raise and catalyze your fund two raise. And that just this concept that like there's so much pressure for those early deals. And so it sounds like you felt that too, even back then.
Absolutely. I don't think we thought about it though as, the first 5 deals, right? We just thought every deal that we do.
Matters. Yeah. Number 6 is also important.
Yeah.
And then you called it cross culture,
yeah,
which is a really cool name. And I have like a educated guess on why you called it that, but could you tell us a little bit more about like the name choice? And it's very unique in our industry. I feel like nothing usually mentions culture, and that's so much of your thesis, and that's obviously part of the name. So I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah. So we had the benefit of co-founding this firm with a guy named Troy Carter, and Troy's a music mogul and an executive and a terrific angel investor.
Tell people a little bit more about how big of a deal Troy Carter is. I feel like you're underselling him right now. He's like as big as it gets in music.
Yeah, I mean, so Troy's on the music management side, like he's credited with breaking Lady Gaga's career, Eve, Meghan Trainor, Miguel. The lists go on and on.
And I feel like especially during that time period.
Yeah.
Like I'm not as up to speed on what he's doing now. You know way better than I, but I feel like in that like 2015 era, he was like the guy.
Yeah, he had an incredible run, and if there was a pop artist that was breaking out, that person was probably on his roster, and he was probably having an incredible impact in them getting to where they are today. With that, but also he was an angel investor. So I mean, he was early in Dropbox, Spotify, Warby Parker, Uber, Lyft, etc. So a really good investing track record.
Those are like okay companies.
Yeah, and he had a company. It was called Atom Factory.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Wait, remind me. Was that his music management company?
It was. Yeah. But they did a bunch of other things too, and they had some really creative people on the team. And a couple of those guys helped us with the naming and the branding. And what we wanted to do was we wanted to create a fund that we're both black men, and we care a ton about diversity, but we didn't want to create a diversity fund. We wanted to set an example for the industry, right? And that example, our thesis was, and still is, if you invest in a meritocratic way, then you will just invest in the best people, and a lot of those people will be black and brown people. And so we thought if we could demonstrate that, for the industry, it might start to remove some of the bias that we see in venture capital and in tech entrepreneurship. So we're going for that. So when you think about black and brown people, culture just kind of like pops out at you, right? But then we also wanted to be strategic about the sectors and the technology that we were investing in, and what drives adoption, right? And it's culture, right? And so we define culture as or popular culture as behaviors that become social norms. Right.
Yeah.
And so
I've never heard the definition of popular culture. That's interesting. Yeah.
Right. And so what we wanted to do was to identify emerging behaviors that had a global appeal that could move the needle in a number of different industries. And then we expanded it further to not only be changes in behavior, but also changes in regulation and changes in technology. And so the idea is to spot those changes early, and then figure out what are going to be the second order effects of those changes and invest there. So that's and we coined it cultural investing was the is what we called it. But that's essentially what we're doing.
That's so fascinating. It's so important in your industry too to create your own language. Because I think, and that's something that, and I thought actually has a lot to do with culture too, right? And like making something a social norm is actually having something that you can point to that says, oh, we do that. That's our approach. Who came up with cultural investing? Like, what was that origin story? Was it just the great branding guys at Atom Factory that you guys all jammed on?
They didn't come up with that. That was between Troy and myself, and I don't know who, I can't remember today, which one of us got that that
that's a
exact
good one
piece
though.
out. Yeah. Like we still use it today at Mac.
Yeah.
So
it's and I feel like very associated with your brand as just an investor, regardless of cross culture or Mac.
Yeah.
It's very much tied to Marlon.
Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome. Okay. The other thing I want to talk about is some of your investments at cross culture. So you guys had a really early, strong track record, which really helped lift you into what you're doing now. Talk to me about some of those exciting investments you made. And I want to also add like a little caveat. This diversity thing you're telling me about, I think is a really important conversation. How are you approaching the founders you wanted to back? Was it, like you said, purely meritocratic? Like, we're going to back the best founders we see? Did you start with a bit of a lens of diversity? Talk to me a little bit about that. I'd love to hear more about the companies and then this diversity lens at all and where it showed up.
Yeah. Well, when you have a diverse network to begin with and community, you don't have to go searching for them, right?
It just happens
They're there,
yeah.
right? So I'm going to see teams of white founders. I'm going to see Armenian founders. I'm going to see Black. I'm going to see Latin founders, et cetera. It's just a part of like who we are, right? So we didn't have to search for it. Literally, we'd identify a place that we wanted to invest in, and we would look for the best company and the best founders that were building in that space. And that's still how we go about it today.
Any great companies that you want to point to? Yeah, like in those early funds?
Yeah, so many. So CrossCulture only had one fund, but
oh really? I thought there was two. I thought there was two. Just one.
One fund, and then I did the merger. We can talk about that later. But
yeah.
So Gimlet Media was a big one for us. We saw podcasts turning into like a real genre, and Gimlet had. Their approach was just different. They were like, it was like movie making, but for podcasts, and like with a bunch of different shows, right? And just storytelling at its best. And that had a great outcome. It was acquired by Spotify, I think, within 3 years of our investment. So that was a good one. And one that's still operating today is Thrive Market, and Thrive is
LA company, right?
Yeah, LA company. They are trying to eliminate what's known as food deserts. So the concept is, irrespective of where you live, what your income level is, you should be able to eat well, right? Healthy food should be available to you. Yeah,
good mission.
Yeah, and the company created an incredible logistics platform that allowed folks to order online and have things delivered to them within a day, wherever you are in the country, which had never been done before. And they started with dry foods, and they went to frozen, and they went to fresh, and they've pioneered it. Today they're killing it. I can't speak about their valuation and their how they're thinking about potential exit or anything like that, but it is one of the strongest performing companies that I've been a part of. So there's Thrive.
I love that. Yeah, both great companies.
Yeah.
And very culturally forward, creating new social norms. I'm seeing the thesis come to life. On Trailblazers, we spotlight founders who succeed by doing things differently, not by following the playbook, but by rewriting it. Many of those unconventional builders and the VCs backing them run on Brex because it helps them scale with speed and focus. From smart corporate cards and high-yield banking to AI-powered expense management, Brex gives startups the financial stack they need from day one so they can spend more time building and less time managing back-office operations. More than 30,000 companies, from breakout startups like Anthropic and Cursor to global leaders like DoorDash and Plaid, trust Brex to help them spend smarter and move faster. That's why we, as a venture firm and also the podcast, run on Brex too. Sign up at brex.com/trailblazerspod to get started and claim exclusive rewards. That's brex.com/TRAILBLAZERSPOD. RocketReach is the leading sales and lead intelligence solution trusted by sales, marketing, recruiting, and business development teams to grow their businesses. Whether you're looking for a developer halfway around the world, a C-level executive in New York, or a potential investor in Silicon Valley, we connect you directly. With RocketReach, you can easily access the most comprehensive, accurate compilation of emails and phone numbers on Earth. That puts you in front of the right people faster and backs you up with a database that reaches across industries, markets, and titles, using AI to continually improve the quality of your contacts. With RocketReach, you can reach anyone so you can reach higher. Many of you know I love cold outreach. It's been the root of many of my success so far, and this is the tool that I've used the whole time. Trailblazer listeners get 15% off any plan at rocketreach.co/trailblazers. That's rocketreach.co/trailblazers. So you're hinting at it, but I want to talk about this Mac merger.
Mm-hmm.
So, you're doing cross-culture ventures. You do one fund with Troy Carter, and then seemingly overnight in our business, you become Mac and you partner with another fund. Why did you do that? How did that come about? Actually, very rare in our business. I think I have like a hypothesis it's going to be a lot more common now that there's going to be more consolidation of venture firms. I think like you pioneered it. I think in the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to see a lot more Macs sprouting. That's my take. But I'd love to hear who gave you the idea, how it came together, what made you want to trust this other person to blend worlds with. Give me the whole rundown.
Yeah. So I didn't expect it to happen. Troy is to this day one of my closest friends, and so we would go on these walks and talk about what we were doing with the business and what we wanted to be doing long term. And one day, we were having just a super candid conversation. He's like, I don't know if I want to run a fund anymore. I was like, okay. Well, and this is right around where we've got to start thinking about raising our next fund.
And this was like 2018?
Yes, it's 2018.
Okay.
Yep. End of 2017. Beginning of 2018-ish is when we had this conversation. I remember it was this trail like right around the corner from his house, and we're walking, and I was like, oh, that's shocked, right? And so we talked about it. It's like, yeah, I really want to get back to music, right? I think I want to build something around tech and music, and that's what I'm passionate about.
Was he a full-time GP at this point?
Yeah, he was always a full-time GP.
Really? Okay,
yeah,
so
yeah.
Was Atom Factory just kind of running without him?
He had closed down Atom Factory.
At that point, okay.
Yeah, and for a while he was doing some consulting with Spotify, and then he actually took a full-time job with Spotify as a head of creator services. But he was always helping me run Mac full-time. Cross-culture full-time. Yeah. And investing actively as well. So he was a part of every investment decision, a part of every critical operating decision with the company, like all of it, right? But that's Troy. I mean, he's never just doing one thing all the time. He's doing a lot of things.
He's an entrepreneur.
And doing them well. Yeah, he is.
That's just what they do.
He is. Yeah. He's creative. He's smart, and he's an entrepreneur. And so I was like, all right, well, I want to continue to build this, and just being the person that he is, he was like, well, look, we build this together. I'm moving away from it. I'm gonna support you. I'll invest, and why don't you continue to operate the brand and take it to wherever you're gonna take it to. And so I was like, okay. And so first I started to interview some folks that were like maybe at the principal level or partner level. That I might recruit to join the team, and there were a couple people that got really close. But as that was happening, I realized that we were doing quite a bit of co-investing with another group called M Ventures, and that was a fund that was created by Charles King, another kind of media and talent management mogul. Adrian Fenty, who was a former mayor of Washington, D.C., and spent, I think, 4.5 years at Andreessen Horowitz. And then Mike Palank, who met Charles at WME, became a partner there and was employee number 1 at Charles' media company, Macro. And so they had built this company called M Ventures.
And when did they start their firm?
They I think 2016, 2017.
Oh, so like same time frame. Like you were both a few years in.
Yeah.
Cool.
And so and we were investing in similar companies at the same stage, right? And also Cross Culture was an investor in Macro. So I really got to know Charles pretty well and as an extension of that, Mike pretty well, right? Adrian less so. We overlapped a little bit in the Bay Area when I was at Intel and he was at Andreessen Horowitz. But I was spending a lot of time with Charles and Mike actually, and so I just thought like, you guys don't necessarily have someone on your team that came from call it a big shop that was a direct investor at that shop, and I think that could be helpful in your fundraise. And I'm looking for partners that have a different perspective, have different experiences, and see the world in a similar way, but also in different ways than I do. And we clearly gravitate to similar types of companies. So, what do you guys think about what if we just merged our teams and created a new thing, and went for bigger aspirations? And so they were into it. I think a little skepticism, but into it.
I mean, I don't think you expect those kinds of conversations.
Yeah,
no matter how good of an idea it is, that's a shock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we spent probably 3/4 of 2018 testing it. And this is the important part. We had to figure out, are we going to be able to make decisions together? Are we going to be at each other's throats? Like, is this going to be a good union? And so we would look at deals together, and we would make investment decisions on those deals together, even though we were investing out of separate entities. And so that kind of gave us the boost or the confidence that we could go out and do this together. And so at the top of 2019, we set out to raise the first MAC fund. And the naming thing was crazy. We hired an agency to help us find names. They came up with so many different names, and there was none that we all just liked. And one day I just said, what if we just named it MAC? M Ventures in Cross Culture.
And M-A-C, M and C.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So good.
And that's why the A is lowercase.
Yeah.
But it also it's also represents all of our first initials, right? It's Mike, Marlon, Adrian, Charles.
I didn't know that
Right.
part.
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay, a double whammy name. You got to go with it.
Yeah. So and everyone liked it, and I intentionally put the M first because it could have been Cam,
Yeah,
but I was like, no, let's put M first. And
well, M could be first because it's their fun, but it also could be first because it's you.
Yeah.
So it's sort of half and half. Yeah.
I guess. But the main thing we were going with was M Ventures in Cross Culture. So,
yeah.
And so sold it, and we went off and started talking to LPs, and then COVID hit. we got a first close, which was not, typically a first close is half of your fund size or maybe a quarter of it. We were nowhere near that. I don't even remember what percentage we were at, but we just said, look, we got to start investing, because the biggest thing we were hearing from LPs was that you guys haven't actually worked together before. Like, sure, you have your independent track records, but together you don't have one, and we're not sure if you're going to make the right decisions together. So we're like, all right, for those that had enough faith and backed us early, we're like, all right, we're just going to start investing in companies. And so we did. And after, I think, a 6-month period, COVID hit and no one would talk to us anymore. But fortunately, we did make an investment. There's a company, fintech called Pipe. And,
which there was news today about.
Yeah.
Yep, which we can talk about.
Yeah. And so at the time, that was the first stop that those guys made on their fundraising journey, and it's because I had worked with them on the former company and supported them through not the best exit, not the best outcome, right, but the right outcome for them. And so they came back, and we all met as a team. It's like, yeah, let's do this deal. And I think it was maybe a year later that 13 million valuation moved up to 2 billion. And
I remember it well. My last firm was invested in Pipe.
Yeah. Okay.
So I remember we sold. Well, I don't know if I can say this, but we were able to benefit from that.
Yeah. I'm sure. Yeah. Some smart people took some off the table.
Yeah, you got
for
it.
sure.
Because it also was was very overvalued. But okay, another conversation.
Another conversation. They had to grow into that for sure, right? They're only a year old. I mean, come on.
This is any company. We won't even any 13 to 2 billion in a year is a lot.
Yeah. A year to 18 months, something like that.
Yeah.
But so folks started coming back to work. That I guess LPs realized that the world wasn't going to end, and that they had to do their jobs again. So we started having conversations again, and the fund was still open, and you had this incredible mark on the
Which
fund.
sounds like the first deal out of
it.
Mac,
It
or was
was
like the
not
second
the
or third?
first. It was like the third or fourth.
Okay,
actually.
but it was early enough. Again, this is back to the first 5 deals conversation, though.
Yeah. This
Because
is
you
true.
use those to bring it back around.
Yeah. And so, now we're out and having the conversations. We're like, look, these are the types of deals that we're doing, and look at this one. And and folks are like, oh, okay, well, that kind of de-risks this a little bit, right?
Because they already get a markup if they join. Yeah.
There's an asset in here that that we see panning out, right? Because so ultimately we're able to raise $110 million for that first fund. And continue to invest from there. Now we're 3 funds in. We manage just about $600 million.
Yeah, imagine $600 billion.
Wish.
That's a lot of work.
Actually, I don't wish. I
that's
don't
a
want
different model. That's not venture.
Yeah, that's that's now running a more of an index fund or a buyout fund.
Different model.
So. But $600 million across the three funds, and we did 6 years. So
and you're doing it.
Yeah, not bad.
And what do the next 5 years look like for Mac? Like, if you look ahead, what do you hope changes? What do you hope stays the same? Obviously, this partnership is working, which is amazing. You guys are now 4 funds in, 6 years in, or 7 years in maybe. What's next? Fill us in.
Yeah, I think more of the same, right? We want to be early to new technology, new industries, right? My partner Mike, Adrian introduced us to the concept of investing in space. Mike then took that and just really built a brand for the firm and for himself as the preeminent space investor, right? And we did that before it became popular. Right?
Yeah, you timed that right.
We did all right. Energy is another one, right? Where we were pretty early. There were the impact funds back in the day that might have done some energy investing, but this kind of new wave of energy companies, built on top of AI, et cetera. We were pretty early in getting some really key investments in that field as well. And so we want to continue to, spot these trends early, get into what we believe will be the category leaders in these industries early. And then, one thing that's a core tenet of ours is that we want to be your favorite investor, your most value add investor. We meet with our portfolio companies once a month, right? And as they mature, that probably turns to once a quarter. But these meetings are really about just understanding what's going on at the companies and how we can be helpful. And I'm on WhatsApp. I have WhatsApp conversations with our founders around the world, and they're hitting me up whenever, weekends, late nights, or whatever. We're jumping on the phone. We're talking about things, right? And that's the kind of relationship we want to have with our founders, and do have, and want to see that continue. The other thing is we want to be a firm that grows talent from within and advances that talent, right? So, Danny Brown, for instance, he was chief of staff at Cross Culture, right? He's a principal at Mac now. Della, who joined us as an operations analyst, pretty much right out of school, George Mason. He's now a senior associate on the investing team with the firm. And so we want to see these people just kind of grow within the firm, understand how we evaluate opportunities, how we evaluate spaces, and how we add value to our founders. And then, one day it'll be theirs.
Yeah, it's crazy succession planning. There's never too early of a time to start, right?
Yeah.
And when you have them from within, they can continue the mission.
Yeah.
You mentioned creating more of a name for yourself in this space world. You're also based in LA, which is a nice convenience.
It's helpful.
It's helpful because a lot of space is happening in LA.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about like picking LA as a hub. What's your take on LA as a hub for startups, LA, the future of LA? Give me like the rundown there, because I will say I used to live in LA. And, I have my opinions, but I want to hear yours. I'm putting you in the hot seat.
Yeah. I love LA, first of all. That's a song, I think. But this actually started back in cross-culture days. I was still living in the Bay Area when Troy and I got together to start Cross Culture, and every other week I would come down to LA and vice versa, and we said, you know what, we should just be in the same place. He was not going to move to the Bay Area, but we should be in the same place.
He's like Mr. LA. Yeah, makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, now he lives in Martha's Vineyard, but that's a whole nother story.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Well, he's like made it. He's done. Yeah.
Yeah. But we thought about it. We're like, we could build another seed stage firm that's based in Palo Alto or San Francisco, but we'd be one of like 100 or 200. And what we're trying to do is establish a brand that really stood out, right? And we'd be able to grow it like rapidly. And so at that time, LA as a kind of venture and startup ecosystem was just starting to blossom, right? And it was also very communal and collaborative as a venture community. And so we said, you know what, let's try branding it in LA. And then also we wanted to kind of lean into the kind of the influencer and the A-list celebrity types that were all over Troy's Rolodex, right? And now Charles's, right? As we move to Mac, being in LA gave us that kind of a that nudge, right? So there were just a lot of good things happening, and we think we made the right decision. I think it would have been harder to stand out as a new firm, and the things that made us different, really resonate with LA as opposed to resonate with Silicon Valley. Now, all that said, we do have a presence in the Bay Area.
It's a quick flight.
Yeah, it's a quick flight. But Adrian lives in the Bay Area, so he lives in Menlo Park, and so we have that coverage. And then I'm up there all the time. Many members of our team are up there all the time. So we consider ourselves, yes, our office is in LA, but we consider ourselves a California-based firm.
Yeah. No, it makes a lot of sense. And I think like of any firm, whether you're going to have a space focus, you're going to have like a celebrity creator focus. Like there's a few things that LA is just so good at, and for sure the best in the world. And you're kind of adding all those things to your belt, the celebrity creator thing, now the space thing, and you're really, making yourselves the preeminent leaders. I want to talk to you.
One other thing that I think a lot of folks forget about LA, there are a number of industries there, and there are really big companies in those industries that are there. So when we think about being able to introduce our portfolio companies to executives at companies that could be their first major partnership and things like that, a lot of that exists in LA.
Totally.
So that's a benefit as well.
Yeah, I feel like that's the beauty of LA and New York, is that these are like London. There's some like global hubs where in any industry it'll be in the top 5. LA might be the 5th biggest, right? Maybe like there's a special focus in Miami or something, but LA is just, it's a world player. So you're going to naturally have big customers and big players there. Yeah,
I think it's like the 5th largest economy in the world or something like that. And it is now the 3rd ranked, kind of venture tech hub in the country.
Totally.
So, yeah.
How do you think about, so this is like a selfish question I'm asking, how do you think about sharing updates with what Mac is doing and what the deals are that are winning? So like as an example, space is kind of this new thing for you guys, right? And how are you sharing that with everyone? Pipe being like a big winner, how are you sharing that with everyone? I'd love to hear a little bit, because so much of culture is actually media, and it's about and especially a lot in our industry, it's a lot about like having a brand and having people know what you focus on, what deals you've done. It's a lot of like just sharing, honestly. How do you think about getting your point of view out there? How do you think about sharing your wins, sharing the new thesis areas? especially because you have so many different partners. How are you thinking about that right now?
Yeah. As a firm, we're doing more writing.
Long form writing?
More short form writing. We
Okay.
we do long form. I'll get to that in a second. But like we're writing on LinkedIn. I think Mike is on Substack as well. But a lot of LinkedIn writing just around our thoughts on new industries. Like I did a 6-part piece on LinkedIn on energy and where I think the opportunities there are. I'm in the middle of doing one around physical AI right now. So we're doing a bunch of that. But traditionally, we've just tried to tell the Mac story through the lens of our portfolio companies, right? So most of what you'll see from us, like if we do a LinkedIn post, Instagram, or whatever platform, it's about a win that that our portfolio company just had, or a shift that they're making, or something like that, right? It's never about Mac now has this much under assets under management, or whatever, right? It's about the companies, right? And as a service provider, right? Because that's what I think we are. We're a service provider.
Yeah.
It's got to be more about our customers, and those customers are the companies that we invest in our LPs. And so all our storytelling goes through that. So we post. The other thing that we do too is we write long form. We write these things called the State of Technology and Culture reports. And these are industries that we are super passionate about, that we started to invest in, and we want the world to know that we are investing in this space. Here are some of the companies and some of the categories within this space that are important to us. So we've done investments here, and here, but here's some other areas where we haven't quite, found the right company yet. If that's you, find us, right? So we publish those, and that's probably on an annual cadence or so.
It's a lot of work to put that together.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. But it's also we also learn, right?
Yeah.
So it's
It's a great exercise.
We're doing the research. We're learning. We're gaining or losing conviction, because there have been things that we started to write and we're like, as you learn, you're like, this is not it, right? And then there are other things where it's like, I think we're right, and this is even more exciting than we initially thought. So that's how we try to get the word out, and then being on
Stuff
Trailblazers.
like this. Yeah, exactly.
Right?
It's just so interesting too, because you guys have been around and you're getting more institutional, and hearing how you think about getting your name out there, it's always helpful to hear. Yeah. One last question before our lightning round. I did want to talk about Culture House.
Oh yeah.
Because I can't talk to you and not talk about Culture House. It's very cool. Tell everyone a little bit about like why you started that. What is Culture House? Give me the rundown.
Culture House. It's essentially a convening that happens on the backdrop of a major conference or event that's happening. So we started it. Rodney Williams and I started it.
You know all the powerhouses. You find a powerhouse and you're like, let's start something together.
Well, I was an early investor in his first company while I was at Intel, and that's how we built a friendship.
But you're someone who keeps these relationships, which is really special, because a lot of people will invest or get to know someone and then it kind of falls off because there are so many competing priorities. But it's cool how you keep people for a long time. It's impressive.
I like the people are the most important part of, I think, of venture capital, and so I make it a point to make sure that every founder that I invest with is someone that I want to have a long-standing relationship with, right? And Rodney's definitely one of those people. But after I made the investment, we were spending time at South by Southwest. I think we went for like a couple years, and we're like, you know what? There just isn't there isn't a vibe here that feels black. That where you have hip hop music playing, you have the attendees, the room looks more brown than it does white, but not exclusively brown or black. And we said, you know what, let's just try something. And one year I did a brunch with Red Point Ventures there. And Susie Rue, who used to work with Troy and I, helped put that together. And it was great. We had the best barbecue in Austin. And we had founders
the
and,
best music,
investors.
The best vibes. Yeah,
it was cool. The
Yeah.
music wasn't the best,
Oh, really?
not for that one.
Okay, you gotta take the aux next time.
Yeah, right, and that's what we did. So I invited Rodney to it, and we were like, you know what, let's do a brunch next year. Let's call it the Culture Brunch. And so we did that. We piggybacked on a space that some other people had, and we had like a good maybe 2 or 3 hours. And we ordered the barbecue again, and just had the right people in the room, and people were enjoying themselves. The music was good. We had a DJ. The music was good. The food was good. People were talking about potentially working together. That's where Peter Pham and Delane Parnell of Play Versus, Peter Pham from Science and Delane Parnell from Play Versus met. And that's how Play Versus came to be, because of that Culture House interaction.
Crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
And there are a number of other things like that happened. And so we got to the end of the 2-3 hour, and people were just didn't want to leave. And so we're like, you know what, maybe we should make this longer. And so the next year we came back and we did the brunch and a day party, and started to include content. So we had Baron Davis do a fireside chat about,
I know Baron Davis.
Yeah.
Everyone knows Baron Davis.
Baron's a homie. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
But the conversation was around how do you move from professional athletics into entrepreneurship, the difficulties that come with that. What benefits does your celebrity bring to that, et cetera. It was great. And then people really enjoyed it. And so we're like, all right, we got to do it again next year. But we made it longer. So now we have it's a brunch, a day party, and a nightcap. So
wow.
You're going from like...
You got to take a nap in the middle there. That's a lot.
Yeah. So you're going from like 12:30 p.m. to like 9-10 o'clock at night, right? And the key is you got to have the right balance. You got to have the right number of entrepreneurs, the right number of investors, the right number of corporate executives. You got to have the men to women ratio has to be right as well. You have to have good drinks, good food throughout the day.
Yeah.
All these things, right? And then the magic in the content, right? So having people on stage that the audience actually wants to hear from and interact with. Like we had T.I. on one year.
Crazy.
There's a lot of different folks. And so over time we're like, you know what, we could take this on the road a little bit. There are other events that are happening around the country, and even some out of the country that could benefit from having this. And so, now we activate at not only South by Southwest, but we Art Basel, Martha's Vineyard, Afrotech. There's a party that Rodney does in Cannes during Cannes Lions. So we're working with the city of Baltimore right now to do something during this music festival that they have. So it's grown and become its own thing. We actually turned it into a company, and there's a managing director that runs it, runs the operations for it now.
And you just fund it from like ticket sales, or is this like these
so
free
it's
parties?
always been free to the attendees.
Okay.
That's something we're experimenting with now too, where we can, because it's the event's been funded by sponsors.
Yeah.
Right. So brands that want to be in the room. Right,
Totally.
and have a real presence in the room.
But usually stuff like that breaks even. Like I've always found with events, it's hard to like.
We never wanted to make money on it.
Yeah.
Right. But now that there's a team, you have to make money to pay them. Right. And so now we're exploring. What does ticketing for this look like? Because there's a balance between anyone being able to buy a ticket and managing the ratios that I mentioned earlier.
That's like so much of it.
Yeah, that's all of it.
That's all of it. That's all of
So,
it.
yeah.
You're bringing the good vibes.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people throw events, but so few brand it the way that you have and make it this like actually named thing. Like so many people, like I know so many funds and so many companies will do like a dinner as like a side thing at Upfront Summit or whatever. But it's so cool that you guys have this set format that you can port places and are making it more of a set thing. I think it's really cool. And I think you're inspiring at least me to be like, oh, I should have more of like a structure around that. If you work in venture or startups, you know the constant juggling act. Replying to messages from co-investors, founders, LPs, customers, and teammates all hitting your personal number. I know this very well. We all hand out our cell, which means your EA can't help an iMessage, and important threads get buried. That's why I'm very excited about Quo, formerly OpenPhone. It's built for founders and investors like us who want communication that feels personal but stays organized. Quo gives you a dedicated business line on your existing cell phone. And if you already have a business number, you can bring it with you for free. Plus, you'll get call summaries, transcripts, and an AI voice agent called Sona that can answer and schedule when you're offline. We're actually cooking up something fun with the Quo team right now and using that same voice AI tech in a new way for our firm. More soon, but it's a great reminder that you can use voice AI to stay top of mind of your customers' needs. Quo is trusted by over 90,000 businesses and rated #1 on G2 for customer satisfaction. You can get 20% off your first 3 months at quo.com/trailblazers. That's quo.com/trailblazers. So I've actually used Gusto at 3 different companies, and every time it's been such a relief. It's simple, it's reliable, and my paycheck was always on time, no drama. And unlike the big clunky payroll systems out there, Gusto is online payroll and benefit software specifically built for small businesses. It's all-in-one, remote-friendly, and incredibly easy to use, so you can pay, hire, onboard, and support your team from anywhere. For smaller startups in particular, I have found that it's the most affordable and easy to set up option, and it's the one that we recommend to all of our startups at our firm. Try Gusto today at gusto.com/trailblazers and get 3 months free when you run your first payroll. That's 3 months of free payroll at gusto.com/trailblazers. One more time, gusto.com/trailblazers. Okay, so let's get into the lightning round.
Okay.
Give me the first answer that comes to mind.
Okay.
And you can't say neither or both. You got to give me one. Okay.
Okay. So it's multiple choice?
Yeah, it's just 2 choices. Okay. Book in hand or podcast in ears?
Podcast in ears.
Okay. Do you have any favorites?
Lots. I wouldn't say a favorite or favorites, but there's some that I listen to that are more entertainment based. There's some that are sports based. There's some that I can, like Origins, for instance, where I can learn from LPs and other GPs. Yeah. And then audiobooks. I love audiobooks.
Ooh, yeah. Do you have like a specific time and place when you listen to your audiobooks, or is it
when I'm in a car? Yeah.
So good.
I live in LA. So
yeah. It's so funny. When I lived in LA, I had such a good routine. I was like on top of podcasts. I did some audiobooks, but mostly podcasts. Now I'm like, I can't make the time unless I'm working out.
I do it when I work out too.
Yeah. You don't have that transit time. Mm-hmm. Okay. Morning person or night owl?
You said I can't say both, but it actually is both.
Okay, you have to pick, like 51, 49%. You got
night owl.
Okay, a little more of a night owl.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it because you like to go to bed late or you like to wake up late? What's your...
I'm trying to do better at sleep, actually.
Okay.
Like I wear a Whoop now. I'm tracking it.
Good.
But I'm a person that could stay on whatever the mission is until I finish it. And that was something I had done a lot, and I've realized that that's not the most productive way to go about it, because at some point you start moving slower. You start processing things slower. Mm-hmm. You're way less effective. So it's better to cut it off and pick it up again. So I'm trying to schedule blocks of time to do things. And stick within that block of time just to be more efficient and have all the brain juice that I need for that thing.
Totally.
Yeah.
My new thing is I give myself 1 day a week to be bad. Like last night I stayed up till 2 a.m. finishing something, same as you, like rabbit hole, couldn't put it down. And I was like, okay, that was last night, that was bad, but that was my one time this week. Because we got to give ourselves flexibility.
Yeah.
Because so much of our job, it's so exciting. You want to just like finish the thing or figure out the answer. So that might help.
Yeah.
Giving yourself some leeway once a week to be bad.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, you can try it. Let me know.
But also I work out in the mornings. And if I don't do it in the morning, the day can get crazy and I may not do it, right? So if I'm looking to skip a workout, I'll tell myself, yeah, I'll do it later, because I know I'm not going to get to it, right?
Totally. Cooking dinner or ordering in?
I'm not a cook. so ordering for sure.
Do you have a favorite cuisine or a favorite place?
Well, I was born in Jamaica, and so I love
that.
Jamaican food. Yeah.
I guess it does say you're an immigrant in your background.
Yeah.
So okay,
Yeah.
Jamaica, very cool. So Jamaican food?
Yeah.
Do you have an LA spot that you can give
Yes.
to everyone?
Yeah. So I live in like the Valley Village, kind of Studio City, Sherman Oaks area,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a spot called Collie's in Sherman Oaks that you can have like. Jamaica's like every other place, right? Different parishes, different communities, they'll make dishes a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
And this place makes it the way that I'm used to.
It's the best.
Yeah.
Oh, how do you spell it?
I think it's just COLI.
Okay. We'll link it in the show notes so people can go.
Yeah.
Sounds good. I don't know any great Jamaican spots in New York, but you're inspiring me to find. VC or bootstrapping?
Oh, gosh. Well, obviously VC.
Okay. You'd be surprised. I have some VCs that come on here and they say bootstrapping.
But it is a, it's a yes and question though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it really depends on what it is you're building, right? Like I've said for a long time, there are only two reasons to raise venture capital dollars, right? One is that you can't build a product unless you hire the folks that can build the product. And then two, you're on a time crunch and you need to scale quickly and you need the dollars to scale quickly. Like if it's not one of those two, then you shouldn't be raising venture capital.
My hot take is the first one is becoming less and less important because anyone can build things now. So maybe it's just the time crunch. That's the only reason.
I think it's the time crunch. It's also there's a reason to get venture capital.
Yeah.
But other benefits of having a venture investor as a partner is that you actually have a thought partner.
Yeah.
Right? You have a group of people that have seen a number of things that could impact your business in different ways. So they can help you see around corners, right? They can also be, sometimes you just need a sounding board, like just someone to vent to. Like, this employee is driving me crazy. I don't know what to do with them, blah, 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 right? And you just need to get through that, right? So there are a lot of other reasons, I think, why you would want to work with a venture professional. But in terms of it making sense from a dilution and ownership perspective, it's got to be one of those two things that I mentioned.
Totally. Sometimes I think VCs, though, are more expensive advisors than anything else. So you got to find the right ones, because that's a lot of your cap table to give up for some advice at 2 a.m. Networking dinner or a big conference?
Networking dinner.
Okay. A culture house event. Maybe that should be our third option. That could be the answer.
Definitely a culture house event.
Culture house event. Yeah, love it. Hire slow or fire fast?
Fire fast.
Okay, tell me more.
You can spend a ton of time figuring out if this is the right person to hire, but you actually don't know until they get in the seat and start doing the job. And then it's about making the right decision quickly, right? So, yeah, and also like poor performers, the impact that they have on your organization is it significantly outweighs the impact that high performers have on it. They drag everything down, and so if you have that, like, you're better off getting rid of that as quickly as possible.
It's an interesting take that, like, the magnitude of the negativity is outweighs the positivity of a really great performer.
Yeah. Because it shifts the scale, right? If if you're sitting there and you're doing A grade work, and you're getting paid similar to me, and I'm doing like C-level work, you're like, why am I busting my ass doing this, right? You just it's not even something that you're consciously thinking. It's just like, oh well, Marlon turned that in 3 days late and it was fine. I guess I can go play beach volleyball and not turn it in on time, right? Like,
totally,
because it's clearly acceptable in the organization.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most underrated reasons why high performers leave. I think it's because low performance is accepted, and I think that's like the most detrimental thing to an org. So I agree with you. Also proves the importance of meritocracy, like we were talking about earlier. Like, you have to be good at what you do,
Yeah.
regardless of who you are. Okay, 10 small wins or one big moonshot?
It's venture, so one big moonshot.
Okay. Again, you'd be surprised. I asked some VCs and they're like, 10 small wins, that gets you to the moonshot. Okay, one big moonshot, I hear you. Being early or being right?
Oh. Wow. I guess I'd rather be early.
Okay, tell me more.
More shots on goal to be right.
It's kind of like a question about like the venture model in some ways, right? If you want to interpret it that way.
Yeah.
Because if you're right, but if that company's already huge, you're not going to win. But if you're early, maybe you have a chance.
Yeah.
Cool. What's your guys' portfolio construction, just as a quick aside? Do you guys do a lot of shots on goal? Or are you more concentrated?
We'll do 36 to 40 companies.
Okay, so like, kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, never post on social media again or never write again. Okay, that's one category. Or never fundraise another dollar again.
I wish I never had to fundraise another dollar again. For sure. It's kind of a necessary thing that you have to do, right? And so I've gotten to a place where I just embrace it now, and it's more about relationship building than it is the fundraise. And that's how I view it now. And so it makes it much more enjoyable to get out and fundraise.
What's your advice for like an early stage GP that wants to have that attitude for fundraising? Maybe likes it, but it's a slog. What's your advice?
Yeah, I think you have to set a number of goals for yourself. Right. So obviously the main goal is to bring in the dollars. Right. Another goal could be to learn. These folks have, similar to VCs that are working with startups, they've had a lot of reps, they've seen a lot of things, right? So opportunity to learn from them, right? Just building relationships with really connected people that again know things, right? So if those are also goals of yours, then you don't mind having 100 meetings, and getting closer to people, and more importantly, spending time with them after the fundraise is over, right? Because that's when you really build a relationship, right? It's you kind of build a relationship up front, but after they've written the check and you're in it together, that's when you can really build a relationship.
Yeah, and you can prove that you do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah,
which is so much of it.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Appreciate it. Okay, the last question and the ultimate question. Okay.
Ultimate question.
Is AI overhyped or underhyped?
I think it's right where it should be.
I told you I can't have a
Can't
middle
have
answer.
All right, then underhyped.
Okay.
I do think that there are some companies that are way overvalued, that are AI companies, and there are a ton of companies that are not, just given their potential and their kind of early traction. So it's and I also think that we're just scratching the surface, with AI. I think today it can't actually reason yet, right? But there is going to become a point where it can reason, and we're not there yet. And so there's still a ton of upside, I think.
And also in ways that maybe the general public doesn't see. Like this physical AI thesis, it sounds like you're working on a bit, right? Like there's so much we see that will eventually be out there in the world that is more of the unexpected use cases of AI, I would say.
Yeah.
Beyond ChatGPT, which I think is like the most obvious one for everyone.
Yeah. I mean, the physical AI thing is so interesting, right? So you think about the real economy, right? It's like, 70-80% of the U.S. GDP? And that group makes up probably 20% of sales in terms of consuming software as a customer. And so you're like, well, why is that, right?
When you say the real economy, what do you mean by that?
I mean, factories, the physical world, right? OEMs, just like, yeah. And the reason for it is they had a lot of unstructured data, and a lot of things that they needed to capture, information they needed to capture. There weren't ways to capture it before, and now there is. There are all types of sensors, right? All types of sensors that are spitting off all this data, and now here comes AI that allows you to make sense of that unstructured data, right? In a rapid period of time. So now they can actually get meaningful like results or information that can help them run their businesses better, save on costs, produce more, etc. So now that that big part of the GDP is going to start spending more on software, and that's what's exciting.
I love it. I can't wait to read the thesis. You got to make sure I'm like subscribed or whatever it is so I can see that. It's a very exciting time, and I can see you've spent a lot of time thinking about it, which is the most important part.
Yeah.
Marlon, thanks for coming on. This was so much fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was
Appreciate
fun.
it.
Yeah.
On Trailblazers, we're always talking about multiplying your impact, and that's exactly what Athena helps you do. Athena pairs you with a world-class executive assistant who becomes a true force multiplier for your business and your life. Working with my Athena assistant has been transformative. Gab was instrumental in raising Park Rangers Capital's fund in ways that I could have never imagined an assistant could contribute. From closing six-figure checks, to identifying new LPs we should meet, to matching my tone perfectly in follow-up emails. He's elevated my capacity as a founder by giving me more time to focus on the highest leverage work. Athena isn't just about scheduling meetings, it's about unlocking leverage. Hundreds of founders, investors, and executives trust Athena to free their time and scale their impact. Athena is offering our listeners $2,000 off for their first year of service and priority onboarding. And you want that, trust me, there's a very long wait list. When you're ready to multiply your impact and free up time for the things only you can do, go to athenago.me/Erica-Wenger. That's athenago.me/ERICA-WENGER. Thanks so much for listening to the Trailblazers podcast. If you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to follow the show so you never miss an episode. You can also support our work by sharing it with a friend or leaving a quick review. It helps more contrarian builders find us. For more on Park Rangers Capital and our community of elephant founders, head to parkrangerscap.com or find me online at Erica_Wenger. Until next time, keep trailblazing.